What's up, guys? This is Mr. Eldridge, and today our lesson is going to focus on the Columbian Exchange and post-European arrival. So, one of the most immediate impacts of the first lasting connection of the New and Old worlds was the exchange of many goods, crops, and diseases. As with any instance of trade in history, major exchanges come from both benefits as well as detriments. A benefit to most was the exchange of new crops. From the New World came staple and lucrative crops, such as tobacco, corn, potatoes, tomatoes, and pumpkin. From the Old World to the New came crops such as rice, coffee, wheat, okra, and livestock. For the most part, these goods and animals benefited both worlds, as new calorie-dense foods helped to bolster population totals and the pocketbook of merchants. But it's also important to note as well that when we look at this, there's also going to be detriments that come along with this. There also came the exchange of New World and Old World diseases too. From the New World came diseases such as syphilis that made their way to the Old World. But from the Old World, the most devastating diseases were introduced to the New World. And one of the most significant of all of those is going to be that of smallpox. After centuries of immune system development, Old World populations were relatively protected from diseases such as measles, flu, and even smallpox. However, New World populations had no immunities whatsoever, and resistances were none. And many as 90% of the New World population is going to die from exposure to these Old World diseases. And there's many different estimates in regards to the total number of that. We're talking about millions upon millions of indigenous peoples that are going to die because of these new diseases. So it's important to note the Columbian Exchange had both positive and negative influences. We're going to see population grow, but we're also going to see population die. Population growth we're going to see in the Old World, and in the New World we're going to see major decrease in the population. So the Spanish Maritime Empire is going to grow, and we're going to refer to this group as New Spain. Spain was granted access to these vast swaths of land in the Americas and focused mostly on conquest and the extraction and exportation of natural resources such as gold, silver, and cash crops. New Spain, the Spanish Empire at one point was from the tip of South America to what we know as modern-day California. Known as the encomienda system, it loosely translates to land grant. And so these conquerors, these Spanish conquerors, are going to be given land, and the idea was that they would oversee and organize the labor of settlers and American Indians, as well as they were given the task of Christianizing these populations. Now, going back to our last lesson, remember, the 3 G's of exploration: God, gold, and glory, when we talk about the Spaniards. And so some of these are going to be peaceful, but some of these are going to be by force. And so it is this Spanish system that will create a society that will devolve into a racial caste system. It gave specific social and political advantages to individuals like peninsulares. Those were Spanish that were born in Spain. You have criollos, Spaniards that were born in the Americas. And there is a major caste system. And we're going to talk about this more in depth in class. But it's important to note that this racial hierarchy is going to be established. And with this highly racist hierarchy that essentially demoted or promoted an individual based upon their family and based upon the pigment of their skin, based upon darker color versus lighter color, based upon what their bloodline was. And so it is very critical that we understand that moving forward. As not only when we talk about what's going to happen within the context of the Caribbean, but also what's going to happen when you have the creation of the colonies in North America and the expansion of not only the English, but also the Spaniards and the French in what we know today as the United States. And so these empires of Portugal and Spain soon made two major kingdoms, the wealthiest and most powerful in Europe. As such, other European kingdoms started to follow suit. You have to remember, they're rivals of one another. And so they are going to be fighting against one another. They're going to be competing against one another. And so England and France and the Netherlands each attempted to settle territories in North America and the Caribbean that the Spaniards and the Portuguese had not claimed yet. It's a competition. We're going to talk more about the idea of mercantilism, the idea of competition, the idea of building an economy via trade that's going to be established in this new world. And so the English are going to establish the seeds of the American colonies that eventually became the United States with the founding of the Virginia colony in 1607. Check out my Jamestown video. Something very important that will happen for sure. And so the Netherlands established colonial trade posts and small colonies in places like New Amsterdam, what we know today as Manhattan Island, New York City. That happened in 1624. And so the French settled the colony of what we know as New France in the Great Lakes region, in the St. Lawrence River starting in 1524, sending missionaries and trade posts with local tribes such as the Huron and the Algonquin tribes. While each of these states would enter the colonial game later than Spain and Portugal, each would eventually surpass the Hispanic empires in naval, military, and economic power by the late 17th century, leading us to what will eventually be called the French and Indian War. Thank you so much for following in today. Please hit that subscribe button if you have not done so. This is Mr. Eldridge. This has been Eldridge History. Thank you so much, and have a great day.